Okay, I'm recording now. And well, first we have to create this wall. We created this wall, you remember, with different layers. So those are the layers that you have to create. So from the interior side to the exterior side, we have a finish, gypsum board, air. Well, actually, we are going to change this. So I'm going to include here rigid insulation. So I changed my mind, and I think the rigid insulation would be better. Okay, so instead of this 3-inch air layer, we have a rigid insulation here. Then we have the concrete masonry units, 10 inches, another thermal rigid insulation, 6 inches outside. And then here we have air, 3 inches, and then the brick. Okay, so those are the layers, and they are here. So this is the wall, gypsum, rigid insulation, CMU, rigid insulation, air gap, and brick. So that's the wall that you have to create. So click apply, okay, and this is the wall. So we're going to architecture wall. Okay, I'm doing this again because we have to check every time we are working with walls. We have to check that the brick, this is the brick, it's outside. We can change that by pressing the space bar. Okay, so we can change the order of layers. And remember that we declared that the masonry unit is between these core boundaries. Okay, so that means that this is the axis, or you have to move this, and this midpoint is here at the axis, and then we can trim this and this. And finally, we need another wall here. Let's check. Okay, so now the brick is inside, so we have to change this, and then we have to move and make sure that there you go. And now we can trim and trim. So the goal was that this structural element is within the CMU, the concrete masonry unit, which is the structural element as well. We have well, Corey, and we will talk about this later. Okay, so this is it. We have this wall, and now what is the level here? It's level 15. Okay, so walls are up to level 15. There you go. And we had a roof. Filter, yeah, there's a roof, and the roof has these layers. The gypsum, air, a metal deck is a structural element, rigid insulation, 2 layers, 6-inch each layer, and finally this roofing EPDM membrane, which is the waterproofing membrane that we need at the top of the roof. Okay. So now this is the section, and this is the call out. Yeah, but before that, we are going to complete this. So when we have walls on level 0, we need a footing. Okay, we need a footing for walls. So if you go to structure wall footing, or wall structural foundations for walls, okay, we only have to pick the wall, and then we have a footing underneath. Okay, so we can do this. So by picking walls, we have a footing, and we see the 3D wall, and you see the footing here. Is that footing enough? Probably it's not. We have to calculate it. But what is more important, we need to go to the, okay. So this is the footing level, and we are going to move this, or we're going to copy another level, uh, this one. Okay, so let's make this level -1, -1. And I want the footings to be on this level. So it has to start on this level and go downwards. So that means that I have to select walls. Let me see if it works. If we select that wall and we start this wall on level -1, yeah, so the footing automatically goes down. Okay, so we're going to do this with all walls. We're going to start on level -1. So all walls start on level -1. Okay, so now on this section, we will have a footing here. Nice. And okay, so this is the thermal insulation, because now we added the thermal insulation, so it's not an air layer. So now you see that the texture by default, we have this ugly texture, so we have to deal with this. We have trouble with these lines. You know that we can use these thin lines. Well, that makes not as bad as it does with these lines, but we will end up modifying these lines here. Oh, and I remember that we did this, so I showed you how to create that detail with the detail line. Okay, today we're going to create those, yeah, now I remember. Those masonry units were individual blocks. So today we're going to create a repeating detail. But first, let's finalize with the footings and the roof. Okay, so if you look at level 0, we do have structural elements here. So on that structural elements, we can create isolated footings. Okay, so we have a wall, so the wall has a wall footing, but when we have something here, and we have this because we need a reinforcement in the structure, so we create here an isolated, well, this is the cap. So let's create a rectangular footing. So let's place it here and here and here. And let's see what we have done on the 3D view. Okay, obviously there's something wrong here because those footings have to be on level -1. This is the footing level. Okay, so all these have to be on level -1. So now we are sure that this is correct, and we can copy multiple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we can select all them. And well, most likely there will be something at intersections here, so there will be another. Okay, and finally we need a beam. It has to be a concrete rectangular beam, the smallest one. Reference level has to be -1, and then we can connect all these footings. and we can connect this one and this one. And on the 3D view, yeah, I think this is the, yeah, so everything is aligned, so it looks good. Okay, so this is a reasonable footing system. We have individual footings connected by these beams. Why are they on level 0? Edit work plane, level -1. Okay, and all those beams have to be on level -1. Okay, much better. Well, basically, this is the same template we used for last week's exercise, the roof, the folded roof like this. But now we are adding walls, okay? We have the same structural elements, but now we are adding walls, and walls need a footing like this. Okay, what's next? On this floor or this section, we have the footing. So this is the footing level, but now we need a floor. So we're going to create a floor here on level 1, and then we'll go up to level 12. Okay, so now we have to create a floor. On this, we can create architecture floor. We have this default floor. So edit type. And what are the components of the floor? We always need a structural element, and this structure is concrete. We can use the cast in place. In floors, we use cast in place. The thickness, let's make it 12 inch. Okay, say 8 inches, sorry. Oh, but this is not the last one. Then we have to insert something above the core boundary. So this can be the thermal insulation, thermal, and rigid insulation. Thickness, 3 inches can be something good. And finally, we insert a new one, and this is the finish. And we can type here a flooring. What kind of flooring do we have here? Default mass interior oak. Okay, something oak flooring. And an inch. Okay, so now, well, by the way, I didn't change the name. Okay, so you know that I'm not good giving names to things. No. Okay, and we're going to draw a rectangle, but inside, because the floor is going to stop at this level where the concrete masonry unit is. Okay, so let's create a rectangle. Okay, we don't have a snap here, but let's do this. But then we will change we will edit the profile, because I want a snap point here, but we don't have something accurate. Okay. What if I align? I can't. Okay. So let's do this. And on the section, this is the floor. Okay, so the floor goes. I did it on purpose because this is 1 foot. So the footing level is 1 foot below, or -1. And that floor is 1 foot. So we have 8, 3, and 1. So it's a foot. Okay, so this is it. This is the wall. This is the footing levels. This is the floor and the roof. Okay, but at that scale, if we print this and we have all these hatches here, it's going to be confusing. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of these hatches because, well, I just want to, with this section at this level, I just want to convey the idea of what the thermal insulation is and what the structural element is. Okay, so here we have this gray, which is the structural element. We have a structural element here on the roof. There will be the same structural element on the floor. And okay, so I can use the same code for colors. Okay, so you remember that if I select this, right click, override graphics, and so the foreground cut pattern, the foreground was concrete, and the solid fill, the background was this gray. It's 226, 226, 226. Okay, so I'm going to do the same with that, with the floor slab. Okay, so I'm going to say okay. And with that floor slab, first, you remember that we have to create, to divide this into parts, okay? Because now all layers belong to the same entity. If we divide this, create parts, now we have different entities. We have the slab, we have the thermal insulation, and we have the flooring. We have 3 different layers. Okay, so
where was the create parts command?
it's here. I'll do it again.
Gotcha, thank you.
You select this, and in this file, so you don't have to change the tab here. In create, you have create parts. Okay.
Yep, thank you.
So now it's not activated because, as you see, we have already created parts, so we cannot create a part from a part. So this is a part, so we cannot create another one. We can divide it, and that will be very useful, and we can exclude it. So we will use these 2 commands for parts, but not now. Now we are going to override graphics, and well, let's make it like this. This is already selected because this is by material and it is concrete, so by material it's fine. But the background, I want a solid fill, and the color to have we need the same color code for all the concrete elements. So it's 246, 246, and 246. Okay, apply. And apparently they are not the same. Have I made a mistake? Oh, it's 226, sorry. Override graphics, and this one is 226. Okay, there you go. Okay, so this is concrete, and if we look at this, we see that this is concrete, and the yellow thing is thermal insulation. Okay. Now this is the projection of one of the concrete beams or the footing that we have in the perpendicular wall. But if we make this section, that would be soil. Okay, so we need another texture here. So we need a different material. So let's do that. We can click annotate. We can do that in different ways. So we are going to do that with a field region. You remember that we use this masking region, which is a white rectangle or a white shape somewhere. But now we are going to create this field region, and we are going to create a line. and all the way down, so we can draw this. Okay, and now we create that, and we have a hatch here. This is not the hatch that we use for Earth, so we go to override graphics by element, and on this projection line, no, it's in this surface pattern. We have to select Earth. Okay, so we have this material, Earth or soil, and then we can apply. Yeah, so this is a typical material that we have in Revit for Earth. We can change the scale. I think the hatch is too big, so we can also override this. And when we select the Earth, we click here, and we double click, and you see that we can reduce the scale. Okay, so by default the scale is 1, so I'm going to use 0.5. Okay, and okay, and okay, okay. There you go. Is it too small? Well, I don't know, but I want to let you know that we can change the scale of a hatch, and well, it's different. What else do we have here? This is a concrete. This is a footing. So at least this should be the same color as this one, because this is concrete and this is concrete as well. So let's change the color, the background color of a footing. So it's this, and by material, it's 226, 226, 226. Okay, there you go. So now we can understand that we have different different materials. We have the soil, we have concrete, the footing, and the concrete slab. And so far we have thermal insulation because it's yellow. Okay, so this is what can we do now? Okay, so I don't want to give a lot of detail here because we will detail the call out. Okay, but it's not finished yet. What if we use, well, I showed you how to do this, to insert an individual detail here, an individual block. But I'll show you how to create another repeating detail. Okay, so we're going to copy this one here. There you go. Because this is the only repeating detail that we have. Repeating detail, we only have brick. Okay. So we have to create our own repeating detail. So we edit type, duplicate, don't forget to duplicate, and this is concrete masonry unit, 10 inches, 10 inch. Okay, and now this, we have to select the concrete masonry unit, 10 inches. You remember that we inserted this. I'm going to show you now. Oh, well, look at this, see what happens. It's not acceptable. So we have to change the spacing. So we edit type, and the spacing is the distance between two blocks. By the way, I'm just doing things with my hands and you're not looking at me. I mean, the spacing is the distance between two different blocks. Okay, so we have and each block is 8 inch because we have 10 times 8. So it's 10, the width, and then the height is 8, and 16 is the length, okay? So this spacing has to be 8 inches. We apply, and now it's different, okay? So now we see that we have this is the mortar. So there is a gap between two blocks. We have like a half inch or well, whatever it is. But now we have this repeating detail. We can delete all the details that we did before. And I'm going to delete this as well. And now, if I go to annotate component, repeating detail component, here we should find, okay, we have brick and the concrete masonry unit, 10 inches. So I select this one, and now I can start here, and we can go all the way up. Now this is a repeating detail. Okay, and let's get rid of this. Okay, this is not, well, this is acceptable because yeah, it's good enough. I mean, it's not, when we have this level of detail at that scale, we can understand what we are doing. Well, I told you that we have to turn this into thermal insulation, because now this is the thermal insulation layer. This is the thermal insulation, and we have to make it yellowish. So override graphics in view again. We need to work with the cut pattern. The foreground, let's make it invisible. And for the background, we have to select the solid fill. And what was the yellow? I don't remember. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Okay, so it's a different yellow. So I have to overwrite graphics. If you write down things, you will save a lot of time. So it's 245, 245, 100. So this is 245 and 100. Okay, much better. And why do we do this? Okay, because we want to wrap our building. Okay, so if we didn't have this as a thermal insulation, there would be a thermal breach here, and we don't want that. So you may say, okay, there's a thermal breach here because we haven't, because we will place some thermal insulation here on this cap again. Okay. And we need thermal insulation because this is the thermal insulating layer here. By the way, we can select this one. This is the gypsum. So we can move it up, and then we can extend this. Remember that if you want these arrows, you need to show shape handles, and then you can move it here. And that one, we can move it here. The flooring, usually we have this, we have the flooring, and then we start with the gypsum wall here, and that's it. But this is thermal insulation as well. So we have to override graphics element. I don't remember the color. 245. Override graphics. Get rid of this. Solid. 245. And 100. And okay, apply. There you go. Okay, so now it looks like we have, by the way, here I crop view and I see only what we, okay, we have this, we have to drag the brick up to the bottom, to the footing. This is an air gap, and that's good that this is an air gap. And okay, so now we only have to work with this. Well, we are copying what we have here in this details and reference. We're copying this detail. Okay, so here we have this element, just the cap of this concrete masonry unit wall. We have this special element here as a, yeah, at the top of this wall. And then you see that we wrap this with thermal insulation. So this is what we are going to do. First with a little detail, and then we will increase the level of detail. But first we need to add here that cap, which is a detail component. And here we do have, this is the the concrete masonry unit, and we have these bond beams, okay? But we didn't have 10 inches. We have 4, 6, and 8. So let's try an 8. Okay, this is not what we want because it has to be 10. We can edit this type. So edit this, duplicate. So this is not 8 by 8. This is 10 by 8. And now we have to find out the thickness. You see it's 7/5/8, so it's not 8 inches. So if we use 9/5/8, it's almost 10. Let's see what happens. Okay, perfect. So this is it. It has the same width as the element below. Okay, now we we need to wrap this. So there are different ways we can do that. Okay, let's create a field region and just do this. We're not concerned about dimensions here because we're not going to define this detail. We just want to make this yellowish or yellow. So the surface, okay, I don't want this to be visible, the foreground. And the background, I want a solid fill, and I want 245, 245, and 100. Okay. And is it enough? Yeah, I think that's enough. Okay, so we have created the wall section. We have a lot of information in this wall section because we see the soil, we see the slab, the footing, different levels, and we know that the thermal insulation is wrapping the whole wall, so it's a good solution. And here we have a brick finish, and there will be something here that we will define later because this is not clear how to cover this. So we have to copy these details here, and we will do it in the callout. Okay, so now let's go back to the plan, and I'm going to show you now the view. Where is it? View and section. So it's section 2. Okay, so this is section 2. There is a, what the hell is that? Oh, it's the rectangular beams. This is a rectangular beam. Oh, this is the smallest one. I'm going to edit this type. I'm going to duplicate, and I'm going to create a 12 by 12. Okay, so that would be a foot. There you go. So we are going to select all these beams, and they are going to be 12 by 12. Okay. Anyway, I want to show you, look at this. We are dealing with this part, but even here in this section, we haven't created the parts. Okay, so whatever we do, it's not, whatever we are doing in this section one, it's only for this section one. It doesn't, okay, so we are not doing the same here. So that's why if we want to give different information in different sections, we have to create different sections, and we can't, so it's impossible. So if we are doing this, we're not doing this in the rest of the sections of the wall. And this is how we convey this information. Okay, so with this kind of sections, we were working with yeah, this section 1/8 one. Okay, so this is 1/8. Okay, with this information, we are not defining materials here. I think what we can do is to work with visibility graphics, and if we are using a black hatch, we can do that in walls. So we can overwrite the cut pattern, and we use solid and black and solid and black walls. We can do the same for roofs. I think just one is enough. And with floors. Solid, black. Okay, okay, apply. There you go. Okay, obviously this building, it's just a box and it's not very interesting. But with this, what are we conveying here? We're conveying the idea that this is the space, the white thing is the space inside, and this is the envelope. Okay, we didn't even need the structural elements here. Okay, but we can even say that in visibility graphics, if we are using structural element, do we have footings or foundations? No, we don't. Do we have, okay, we have structural foundations. Okay, so for the structural foundations, we can use exactly the same black color. There you go. Okay, so now we have a foundation, and it's black. And that's it. This is all the information that we need at this scale. Then we move on, we make this bigger. Okay, so in this scale, in this section too, we can have a call out. like this. Okay, then we have this section 1, and finally we have this call out to define this transition between the wall and the roof, and then we see the call out 1. But this is the flow of information that we need to convey people that are looking at this. Okay, so we go from the general. This is the section of the building. Then the next step is to define the wall. We have wall layers, but we know we have a lot of information here. We know that there are 3 layers in the floor. We know that we have different layers in the wall. There's a footing here, and this is something that we have to define more. So that's why we have the call out. Okay, and this is what we're going to do now. We get rid of this. I think I'm going too fast today because I don't know. I think you should know how to do this. I mean, well, you all know how to create a section of this of a box. Okay, so just a section. Section 1 is just about defining this repeating detail and overriding graphics and just defining colors and textures, because the important thing is the call out today. So this is, we are going to end up turning this into this. Okay. Well, this is Revit. This is another language, so it depends. No, but if you are creating technical documents, you don't have colors, but colors is nice for other. I mean, if you are working with design courses and you have a detail of your roof or your wall, using colors in design, it's good. But for professional documents, everything is printed in black and white, so it's useless using colors. You can use grays or and textures and materials, but okay, it depends. I feel like doing this today, and this is what we are going to do. So let's start. So we have this, but now we have a lot of information. We have already done something similar here. Okay, so we're not done with this. We have to include a lot of details here, but at least there are a lot of decisions that we have already made. So the first decision is that we want to start this. Okay, so we don't want any of these textures or hatches, so we just override everything and make everything not visible. Okay, so this is white. Remember that we are well, we are with thin lines, and we will change this as well. And now, what is the thermal insulation? We know that this is thermal insulation. This is thermal insulation. This is thermal insulation. Here we don't have anything, but that is thermal insulation as well. We will do it later. And this is thermal insulation. Okay. So now we're going to override everything by element. And the background, first we have to make it visible. It's solid, and that was 245, 100. Okay, so this is the thermal insulation. Now, next, this is the concrete metal deck. So we have to override graphics in view by element. And this foreground is visible and it's by material and it has to be concrete. And this is solid and it's by color. I think it was 226, 226, 226. Okay, apply. And it's visible, of course, apply. Okay. So this is the concrete. These are the concrete masonry units. So now if we go to annotate and if we select the repeating detail, we have the concrete masonry unit here. Okay, so at least have that. And we can finalize it here. We know that we need a cap for this. We can insert a detail component and it's the bond beam 10 inches by 8. So we can place it here. And well, now we have to move everything downwards. We move it downwards. Okay. And what's next? The brick. Because here we have another repeating detail. It's not the concrete masonry unit, it's the brick. And now we start the brick wall. Okay, something like this. Because as you remember, we have this element, we have this galvanized steel element at the top of the brick wall. Okay, so we have to stop the brick somewhere. We need to wrap this. So here we don't have anything. I deleted something here, or I didn't attach anything here. So we can, okay, we can do that. The same thing we did last time with a field region. So let's go 3 feet. I think 3 feet, no, 3 inches. Then we have to go down here. Okay. Just a piece of advice, make things, this is 6 inches. This is 3. So make this 3 as well. If we have this dimension, where can I find? This is 1 foot, 1/4. Okay, so probably I need to create the structure model line like this. I need 3 inches here, but I have to define, I have 6. Well, there should be a way to adjust this at 3 inches, but I don't find it. Anyway, let's make it this way. And now I have to select this, override. The foreground is not visible. The background is solid. 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5, and 100. Great. And now we can use my favorite tool, which is this installation. Okay. So now it's 6 inches because last time I did this, and to center. We can use to center if we find the midpoint of this element. If it's 6 inches, we can go downwards. There you go. And if we find the midpoint of this here, we go this way, and we find this midpoint, we go that way. What if we select this, show handles, because we can, yeah, we can attach this here, and then we can select the thermal insulation again and make it this. Okay. And now with this same insulation detail, we make it 3 inches. We find the midpoint here. There you go. And we find the midpoint here. And okay, so this, we have to move this. And move it again. That's why I didn't like that. I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to create another field region. I'm going to make it 3 inches. Joder. 3 inches. There you go. And now we go down. We click here, and now, well, that's tricky because we have 2 entities here. We have the hatch and we have the, so make sure that if we use a line, it's much better. Okay. And now we can go up to this point. Yep. And this, and is, there you go. Override, not visible. Oh, solid 245 and 100. Okay, and now with this thermal insulation from the middle, yeah, it works. Okay, so be careful here because this is something that you have to see, and if there's something that it's not matching well, it makes a bad impression on other, or on people looking at your detail. Okay, so be careful because this is something that it's going to be printed at a large scale, and the detail is relevant here. Oh, and finally we have this, which is 3 inches as well. There you go. Okay. So now it's clear what the thermal insulation is: the concrete metal deck, the masonry unit, and the brick. Okay. But now there are more things here. So we are going to copy this. We have these elements. This is wood, and this is a bolt connecting these two things, because here we have, well, maybe there are things that are too complicated now, but we understand that we need to wrap the thermal insulation. We have already done this. We have this element here as at the top of this brick wall, because we don't see the brick wall here. We just see this galvanized steel element. Well, that's a good detail. And then we need this coping system. So we need this element to get rid of water. And to get rid of water, we have to go down and out, down and out. Okay, so that's why we have this tiny shape here. So let's do it. First, we can insert uh, the the steel beam here. Okay, so here we can insert a component, a detail, and what do we have? We have here white flange sections. We have this. Yeah, I remember that that was too big. Okay, it's too big, but we can make it smaller. And the thing is that we need to adjust the width. Okay, so it's this is 4 inches, this brick wall. And if we edit this type, we can duplicate. And this is 300, I don't know. Let's say it's W 4-inch width. Okay, and here we have different dimensions. So this is the D, BF, KTF. Okay, so those are different dimensions because we have a lot of measures here. It's the width of the flange, is the height of the element, the width of the element. So as far as I know, we have to find something that it's close to, yeah, so this is 6. So I think if we make this BF 4, I think it will work. Let's see. It works. Okay, so now this is a 4-inch element. It doesn't have a structural function, so it can be like this. I think the original detail is slightly shorter. Okay, but this is just aesthetics. So if I want a big galvanized steel beam here, that's fine. The important thing is that it's not wider than the brick wall itself. So 4 inches, it's fine. Okay, we're almost there. What is yeah, what is the hatch of this? I know we can edit type. And do we have information? Well, I'm sure that we have information about the hatch, but if we use the overriding graphics by element, the surface, the foreground, so let's use material. I think this diagonal down will be better. Apply. Yeah, but we need to click here, and this is the spacing. So let's make the spacing smaller. Let's say 5. Yeah, I think it's better. I'm splitting hairs here, okay? Because okay, the important thing here is this. We need the waterproof and the vapor barrier. Okay, so we have vapor retarders because now we have to apply this text, but we have to wrap this inside. If you are taking building science 2, you should know that if we want to create a good detail without condensation risks, we need a vapor retarder inside the thermal insulation, and then we need a waterproof layer outside the thermal insulation. And this is what we have here. Okay, so you see that here we have a vapor retarder. I don't know if we can find, this is a roofing membrane. Okay, so this is something, a waterproof layer here, a waterproofing sheet or membrane. Okay, but the idea is that this should be this wrap here inside the thermal insulation should be a vapor retarder, and the other one should be something waterproofing. So let's do that. Okay, so we need 2 different layers, vapor retarder, and then the other one, wrapping this. And we are going to do this with detail lines. Okay, so if you use a detail line, so let's type it here. This is a line, and here you have line types. The default line types we have here. If we select hidden line, we have hidden. If we select line, it's just a line. But I want to overwrite. And here we have projection lines. We have the pattern. We can select the hidden here. And the weight, we can select, let's say 3, see what happens. Apply. Okay. So apparently nothing has happened. Why? Because we have thin lines here. So now it's time to activate this. And look, it's terrible. Okay, because there is something that we weren't aware of. It's the thickness of the lines. So this thickness is not acceptable. So probably we will have to deal with this again. But is this line good? Okay, I think I can use this one for the waterproof membrane. No, I can't see this. Okay, I'm going to override again by element. Maybe the weight of 3 is not good, so let's make it 6. Maybe it's too much. 5. Okay. So I think 5 is good. Okay. Now I can tell that there's something here, and this can be, yeah, it's different because we have this hidden line, and then we have a thickness. Okay, so let's continue to do this. Let's create this thin line, and we are going to wrap all these. Well, before doing this, because this is annoying, I'm going to work with this. So to override graphics in view, again, these are cut lines. Okay, so we are using the cut lines, and we are using, let's try 1. 1 is the thinnest line. So if we do this, okay, so we have done something here. Okay, I want to select this, override, and these are the projection lines. Let's make it 1. Okay, that's better. Let's try 2 or 3. Okay, that's better. Okay, be careful because we have to make sure that we are selecting the right element, and then right click. And here in projection lines, we can select the weight. Okay. And if we copy this line now, oh, hmm, interesting. We copy this line and it doesn't keep the properties.
Yeah, I had to change it every time I drew it.
Um, I'm afraid we have to do that. But I want to, okay, so what if I try a white line? Okay, so that works. Okay, so you see that for this detail line, if instead of using line, we use the white line, I can do this and then wrap all this. And now, yeah, now I have to select all the lines that I have created, but just by changing the line type to hidden. Okay, so that works. And now we need a different wrap around this. So we can create another detail line, white, I wish, path of travel lines. We can explore the, well, we have different colors here. I mean, by default, annotate detail line. What is the medium? Hmm. White. Okay, let's use the white one. And then we will change the pattern of the or the line type. Okay, so we are going to wrap everything here. And now we can select all the lines. Change the object style. And probably the weight. Okay. There should be a difference between this and that. I think now there's a difference so that we can understand what the vapor retarder is. So we have different line weights and we have different line types. Yeah, I think it's enough. That's well, even here, yeah, so there's a slight, yeah, there's a difference between this one and that one, but it's not clear enough. Okay, but anyway, it's difficult, but that's why we have the text. Okay, so with the text we can indicate what the vapor retarder or what the air barrier is. But I think this is good enough. And finally, we need a coping here. And as you can see on this detail, yeah. So there's this is a wood nailer secured to steel banding. Yeah, so there are a lot of small things here, so that we can nail that element to another one, and then there's another flange or another small element that is nailed to another one. Yes, is it relevant? It is, but if we zoom in, we will see that there are a lot of elements here. So this is a line, but maybe there are a lot of small nails or bolts or things just to connect. So that's complicated. Here we have another thing because this is not floating in the air. So this is somehow connected to some structural element that there should be someone somewhere. So that's why probably we have this that we don't know what that is, but it's to fix this element that at the same time is fixing this element here. Okay, so entering here, it's like, okay, so we can spend like 3 hours studying what's going on in this detail. The thing is that we have this, we have an air chamber here, and we need a coping. So we need to close this because if it rains, we have to make the rain to go out, out and down and out. Okay, so we can use this detail, and but now we need a thin line, not a wide one, but just a line. And then if I go this way and this way, then we have to go out. Okay, so that's why we need this tiny element here going out. And then we can use offset. Okay, if we use this offset, well, now it's 1 foot. We don't need this, we don't need 1 foot. So what is the thickness of this element? It's this coping system, it's something extremely thin. So what would be the thickness of this? I would say 0 feet for sure, 0, and 0.1, 0.1, no, 0.1 is ½ inch. Yeah, ½ inch works. So I have this offset, and finally I have to detail. I have to close this and this. And then, yeah, we would need here another detail line. Something like that. Or instead of detail line, I can use a field region. Okay, with a hatch here, because this is something we have to nail this element to this, and we have to protect everything against the rain. Okay. Anyway, there is something that we have to understand today as well. Here, these corners, sometimes we have a double waterproofing layer. So it doesn't do any harm, and I think it's good to protect this against, because this corner, it's a weakness in this roof. Okay, so the water can end up breaking this waterproof layer. So if we double the waterproof layer, it will always work well. So we have to annotate a detail line. Now we have to use a wide one, and we can double this element here. And now we can select all these, and we can, no, it's the override. We can make it this one. Okay, so we have here a double waterproof layer that goes well. in this corner. Okay, it's not bad. I mean, probably is the first time that you're doing something so detailed in a project. So it's good. Now we have to place text, and placing text is it's the most important thing, because now we are defining everything. We are defining materials and thicknesses. Here we have something nice. We can print it, and we can be proud of this. So because it's a good detail, it's nice. But now we have to make this information clear to someone who is building this. So here you can select text. I tried these keynotes, but there's something that is not working. So we are not going to, that's another way to do that. But today we're going to use text. And when we use text, we have just the text. We have a 1 segment or a 2 segment. We are going to use this two segment. I don't like the curved. Well, and now here if you don't do this as I like it, I will fail you. Okay, so this is a warning. You can make other mistakes, and I can be indulgent, and I can say, okay, yeah, so that is a mistake. But be careful with placing the text. Well, because this is, so I'll show you what to do, and please do it as I like it, because otherwise. So we can start with the first one. Okay, so we are defining this layer, which is the 10-inch concrete masonry unit. That's it. Okay, and now we have to make sure that we select this and we copy. I don't want, okay, so this is a serious warning. I don't want you to do something like that and whatever. And then another line here, and whatever. And now another one here, blah, blah, blah. No. Okay. If you want to fail the course, just do this. Make sure that all these lines are parallel and they are all aligned. So I will copy. I will move it up. Okay. If I want to define a different element, so make sure that they are parallels here. And now this is the rigid insulation. It's 6 inches of rigid insulation. Okay, and this is aligned, and that's beautiful. And what if, so you can copy all these multiple times, and now we can define different materials, but make sure that all these lines are parallel. So what's next? Well, we can define this element here. And this is the vapor retarder. Okay. Then we can define this element here. And this is the air barrier. Okay. Now this one would be a 3-inch air gap. Now the next one is this. What is this? You can copy. So this is a count pre-finished galv steel earth banding with end plate. Blah, blah, blah. Do we need all this information? No, this is galvanized steel is the material. It's steel but galvanized so that it can be outside without suffering corrosion or this. And secure to blocking with galvanized clips. So those are the clips. Well, I don't know. there's a lot of information here. So here we can say that this is a gal. Galvanized steel. That's enough. And finally, we can say that this, well, this is something as well. What is it? Extend, no. Seal, it's that one. Wood nailer secure to steel banding. Okay, and this is the coping. Okay, so you can look at this and you can copy all the materials there. So this is the coping. Okay, but make sure that if you place text first, all these lines are parallel. It's fine if you use a different arrow here, because here you have to define different things. Okay, so here you can start defining things. But if you are using this, make sure that all these lines are parallel, because it makes a bad impression if you start. So if everything is aligned and with a nice order, people would appreciate it. Okay. So we are done with this, I think. Yep, we have all these elements here: galvanized steel, coping system. Well, you have to insert this EPDM waterproof, 12 inches of rigid insulation. Here we have the gypsum board, 3 inches of the rigid insulation. Okay, so we can do that. But if you have text here, make sure that it's aligned. And if you have text here, so make sure that, well, it's not aligned, but it's fine. But because at least those lines are all parallel, and that's fine. Oh, and this is important. Make sure that you see the axis, because here we know where we are. Okay, so this is a reference that we have in sections, in plans. So make sure that this element is visible when you print it, because in this section 1, we know that this is the number 1 axis. Okay, so if we see this drawing and then we see this one, okay, I know where we are. We are in this line, and this is a call out of this detail. There you go. And next week, well, I don't know if next week we will do this, but we have to place another call out. So when we are defining a wall, we have to place a call out for the roof and another for this. Okay, so with these 2 details, we will define, because there is nothing relevant here. So we can extend this, and here we have this the same element. But when we have a connection between walls, roofs, floors, windows, now we have to create another call out to define it. So if we create, finally, we create sheets, a new sheet. These are by default. Okay. We have to find title blocks. Yeah, so it's here. So it's a family, a title block. And here we have all these ugly. This is 8.5 by 11 vertical. Let's use the 11 by 17 horizontal. Well, you have to change this. I'm sure that you know how to edit this. Otherwise, well, maybe we will edit one of these title blocks. But I mean, what matters now is the flow of information. So first, we have to start working with section 2. Okay. And now we create a new one. And now we can start with section 1. Okay, so we have to fix this. And here we should place here the 2 callouts, so we can create the section 1 callout. No, not this one. The section 2 callout. No, joder, ¿dónde está? Section 1 callout 1. There you go. Okay, so this is the right, if we look at this project, we can see the first one, which is the building. Here we can have the section and the plan of the building here. And no, this is the architecture. We define the architecture, the space, the measurements, the heights, whatever. But with this, we are defining the construction. Okay, so for this one, we have this call out. So we will know that this element is this wall section. And finally, in this wall section, we have to look at this. We have to zoom in and define all these elements here. And this is it. And these elements there. So this is something similar to a professional presentation, a professional construction presentation. It's not a, we don't have renderings here or perspectives, or we just have details. Okay, so this is the architecture of the building, perfect. But there's something common in the grid, it's something common. Okay, so we see that this is 1. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3. This is 1. Okay, so this is the wall. And 1, okay, that's the detail. So if there's always this grid name here, we can understand what we are looking at. Then we have to fix the title block to make it, because now it doesn't fit here. Okay, but we can fix that. But I think this is a good flow of information. So what do you have to do? If you go to the assignment, you have to create this, all these, the wall footings, the steel columns, those walls. We have already defined those walls. And the file has to include a section. This is the section of the building, the first one. I know we are going to work with this with a different building. This is just to show you how to do that. Next week, we will start a different project and we will have a nice section here, and then we will zoom in until having this level of detail. Okay. But we have this section, the wall section at that scale. This is the wall section, and this is the scale, 3/8. And then the call out, 1 equals 1 inch equals 1 feet. Yeah. Okay, so I don't mind the plans. I mean, it's a rectangle, so you're not losing time modeling the building itself. I want you to work in the section, the wall section, and the call out.